Hello coaster lovers. So if you have been to a couple parks, one of them might have this coaster called a Giga Coaster, and that is any roller coaster that's between the heights of 300 and 400 feet. But what was the first Giga Coaster, you may ask? It is the legendary Millennium Force at Cedar Point. I haven't ridden this in 2.5 years when this video is published, so I'm gonna create an updated review for this ride. So I say let's jump right into this review with the history of Millennium Force. So this Giga Coaster was announced back in 1999, then construction began later, and then it officially opened to the public on May 13th, 2000. This coaster defeated the impossible back in the day, and it was so legendary. It was featured on Insane Coaster Wars, if you remember that show, and it still has a very strong dedicated fan base to it. But besides those things, nothing major has happened to the coaster since opening. But if you know more than I do, leave a comment. Now let's go into the presentation for the coaster. So while you're in a car on the causeway, Millennium Force stands in its presence. It looks bigger than in videos or pictures. Then you walk up to the right and you see its entrance, and then if you visit with Fast Lane, you can walk up to the station, or it can be a short wait. It depends on the day you visit. But if you don't have Fast Pass, expect a long wait time. It's because this thing is popular. Then after all that waiting, you will eventually lead up into the station and be assigned a row, but the crew does accept row requests though. Then you enter the train, hold on your lab bar and dispatch, and that will lead us into the ride experience. So you depart the station and ascend your cable lift, and it's actually pretty scary when you're rising up into the Cedar Point skyline with your small restraint. Then you crest the top and dive down 300 feet, and since you have that T-bar restraint, it does feel like your restraint will become undone and you'll dive into Lake Geary, but don't worry, that's not going to happen. Then you rise into an overbank, and this turn pulls very high forces. Expect a gray out here. And then you turn to the left near the ground and go into a tunnel. It's really loud with the coaster's roar and riders screaming. Then you soar over an airtime hill. Airtime, kind of, but not a lot. Then you turn right and soar into another overbank. There's a couple on this thing. And then you go underneath some track and soar into another overbank turn. This one is more snappy than the other one. Then you soar low to the ground again, but with a slight right turn into a strong sustained camelback. You go flying out of your seat on this hill. Then you level out and rocket through another tunnel. Then you fly over a speed hill with great airtime. You turn to the left again and go into some unnecessary straight track. Then you turn right and soar into another overbank, and then you hit the brakes. And that concludes your ride on Millennium Force. Now I'm gonna dive into the layout. And I love how the forces keep coming at you, but when you look at the layout, it's basically turn, overbank, turn, straight track, turn. So the layout for Millennium Force isn't great, but it's not that bad. I've seen worse coastal layouts in the exact same park. The overbank pulls a lot of strong positive G's, and the camelback hills deliver really good airtime. I also like the sense of speed with the low to the ground turns. It's just the sensations that matter. But overall, not the best coastal layout at Cedar Point, but it's okay. Now to include everything into one category, it's with my personal thoughts. And my memory of riding Millennium Force is getting blurry, but I remember some moments, such as climbing up the lift hill, diving down the drop, the valley between that and the first overbank, just to name a few. And I also have to say, it's not the smoothest coaster ever. In the valley between the first drop and overbank turn, it has a very noticeable shake, and it's kind of a pothole, which is a shame because everything else was pretty smooth. It's just that one little section. But if they made some minor tweaks to that valley, it would make the coaster a heck of a lot better. But to wrap up everything, it comes down to the final score. So for the final score of Millennium Force, I'm giving it a 9.5 out of 10, which is the same score I gave it last time. It's just that valley that took half a point off. But everything else about the coaster makes it different from every coaster in my top 10. It does suck that this coaster was bumped off my top 5 pretty recently, thanks to Mako. But this coaster is still an incredible ride. I wish I got more than one ride on this coaster. But we were short on time when I visited the park. But I'm sure I'll get more laps on this coaster next time. So I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on Millennium Force? And if you enjoyed my review of Millennium Force, make sure to give the video a like. And our goal of the year is to hit 700 subscribers by next year, so it would mean the world to me if you just click that little white subscribe button. And if you have any video ideas that you'd like to share with me, check out my Gmail in the description. There will be a new video coming soon in the next 5 days, so make sure to keep that adrenaline pumping, and thanks for watching.